Right, I'm going to show you how to make beer with one of our 40 pint kits. What we've got here is a fermentation vessel, an airlock, a spoon for stirring the ingredients with, a thermometer for checking the temperature before you pitch your yeast, and some steriliser and cleaner for sterilising all of your equipment before you start. You'll also need a kit which you can choose which one you want to work with. We've got the Continental Pilsner, the Woodford's Wherry Bitter, we've also got the Cooper's Cerveza. If you're using one of the single tin kit, we'll also provide you with some beer enhancer. Okay, to start with we need to sterilise all of our equipment. The reason we do that is like anything to do with food production. You wouldn't make a meal without cleaning your work surface and your implements down first of all. And that's the same with brewing. The only thing with brewing is that you have to go one stage further. Anything that comes into contact with the liquid that's going to be fermented, or the equipment that it's going to be fermented in, needs to be completely sterilised. Therefore all bacteria has been killed off. And the reason for that is that the yeast needs to be able to grow, and it needs to be able to turn the sweet sugars that exist in the liquid into alcohol. And if it's got to compete with any other bacteria, then the chances of it doing that are reduced significantly. The other thing is that bacteria can introduce off flavours and off aromas into your beer, and you can also get a spoilt beer or a beer that won't ferment whatsoever. So it's not rocket science, it just needs to be done well, and make sure that we've completely sterilised it. To do that, we use our steriliser here, and the instructions here say that we use 2 to 3 teaspoons for 10 litres of water. So I'll just take the lid off here and put 2.5 in there. And we just pop that under the hot tap now, and we just want to fill that up to our 10 litre mark, which you can see here on the side of the vessel. Now you'll read the safety instructions on here. Will tell you that this is corrosive, it's bad for your skin. As long as you wash it off your hands when you're finished, there shouldn't be a problem. What we'll do here is anything that comes into contact now with this process, we need to make sure is completely sterilised. So we'll take the grommet, we'll take the airlock into parts, we're going to take our stirrer and also our thermometer, put those into the vessel and just give that a good stir, make sure that we've dissolved all of the sterilising powder. And we're at the 10 litre mark there. So we take that out of the sink, put our lid on, make sure you have it click into place, make sure we get a good seal. There is a hole in the top of this, so you'll need to cover that with your finger, but all we do now is just rock this backwards and forwards to make sure that we're getting the sterilising solution all over the sides and the top of the vessel. You will get some gas build up here, but if you take your finger off slowly, that should release gently. What we need to do now is leave that for 5 minutes, and then we'll give that another shake. Okay, so we've left this for 5 minutes. We're just going to give this another shake now. And again, put our thumb over the top of the hole, give that a good run round, and again release the pressure slowly. And what we also need to do here, we just peel the lid back off, just to make sure that the lid is completely covered, and also that we've got some sterilising solution around the edge of the lid and over the top as well, to make sure that all bacteria is completely clear. So we'll do that now. And also just around the edges here, make sure we haven't trapped any dirt or any bacteria around the top. Push this on here, make sure it's within all of the crevices at the top. Pop that back on now, let's wash our hands, and we need to leave that for another 5 minutes now. Okay, while we're waiting for the equipment to sterilise, we'll show you what you get in the kit. If you peel back the lid on the Cooper's kit, you'll see that you get some brewing yeast, instructions, and obviously the can of malt itself. What we need to do before we can use this is stand the can within hot water, so in the sink we've just filled it up, and leave that for 6 minutes. The malt itself is quite thick, it's like a syrup or a honey, and what we need to do is thin that down to make it easier to pour into our vessel later on in the process. If your sink's not deep enough, and this one isn't, what we'll do is we'll leave it for 3 minutes on one side and turn the can upside down, and then we're ready to pour that later. Okay, so we've completely cleaned and sterilised our fermentation vessel. I've taken the lid off the can just with an ordinary household can opener, and we've got our bag of beer enhancer ready. What we need to do now is mix the ingredients. I've put the kettle on. We've got 2 litres of boiling water in the kettle. You can either do that or use 4 litres of warm tap water, but I prefer to use the kettle. So we've got the kettle ready with our boiling water. The first thing to do is to tip our wort into the vessel. As you can see, it's still quite thick, but we just run that for as long as we can, let as much come out, and then what we're going to do is use the water that's in the kettle just to rinse that tin out, and then we can get all of the last bits of the wort out of there. So don't worry too much about getting absolutely everything out at this stage. You just twist the tin around like that, shouldn't get any massive leaks. And what we're going to do now is just top this up with boiling water. We should just pull the rest of the wort off the side of the can. And then we're also going to cut the top off our beer enhancer and tip that straight into our bucket as well. Okay. Now, word of caution, obviously this is going to be extremely hot now, metal tin with boiling water in, so just use a tea towel around to hold it, and we're just going to tip that into our bucket. And what you'll find, there may be a tiny little bit left, but pretty much we've got a clean can there. So once everything's in here, we use our spoon to give it a thorough mix, make sure there are no pockets, and where the beer enhancer, the powder has gone in, shouldn't be any lumps. We're also looking to completely dissolve all of the wort that's in there, which is like a syrup, and just keep stirring until that process is complete. Okay, so we've mixed the wort and the beer enhancer thoroughly into the hot water now, and what we now need to do is fill the bucket up with cold water to the 20 litre mark. So we'll just pop that into the sink, just turn on the tap. It's fine that we're getting air in there. In fact, oxygen within the wort will help the yeast activate a lot faster, so don't worry if you get bubble and a froth. We will let that drop down a little bit before we pitch the yeast. What we need to do at this stage, once we've topped this up, is to measure the temperature. The starting temperature needs to be between 18 and 21 degrees to make sure that yeast has the best chance of starting. You also need to maintain that, so we need to pop it into a room where the temperature's at that range. So we'll just fill this up now. And there we are at the 20 litre mark. Okay, so the foam's settled down slightly now. What we need to do is take our yeast sachet that I've opened and sprinkle the contents on top of the beer. Once that's on top, we just need to give that one final good mix to make sure the yeast is well distributed within. That's complete. Now put the lid in place, make sure it's tightly on, you'll hear the clicks. And we then put on top, I've got the airlock here, I've filled that half full with water, and screw that in place and just put the lid on top. We now need to leave that between 18 and 21 degrees for 7 days.